Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank and having nothing to do. Once or twice she peeked over at her sister's book just to see that it had no pictures. "What is the use of a book without pictures?" thought Alice. She was wondering in her mind, as much as one could wonder in this heat, whether making a daisy chain was even worth getting up to gather the daisies. Suddenly, a white rabbit with pink eyes ran close by her. There was nothing very remarkable in that, nor did Alice think it was so very much out of the ordinary to hear the rabbit say, oh dear, I shall be too late." When she thought of it afterwards, it occurred to her that she ought to have wondered at this, but at the time it all seemed quite natural. When the rabbit actually took a watch out of its waistcoat pocket and looked at it, Alice started to her feet, for it flashed across her mind that she had never before seen a rabbit with either a waistcoat pocket or a watch to take out of it. She ran across the field after it, and fortunately was just in time to see it plop down into the water. The water took Alice straight in, and she knew this was no ordinary pond. She felt a kind of pull. It was much more like falling than floating, and she knew it was silly to believe that one might fall through water as if they jumped off a cliff. "This is remarkable," Alice thought, as she was sucked into the void that was the pond. Next, she found herself being spat out above another pond that was under a volcano. She hoped it would not be too hot, because if she had learned anything as a kid, it is that when you touch hot things, you get hurt, and she did not want to get hurt. As she fell in, she realized that it was quite cool, and she was relieved. It felt good on a hot day. "Whew," she thought. This was a soft landing for such a long fall, as she was pulled through that pond too. Then she found herself falling into a pond in the middle of a plains. Out of instinct, she still expected a very rough landing, only to be pleasantly surprised by another soft one. As she noticed the warped wall, she prepared herself for another drop. She was sucked back into another portal and dropped, this time above a desert. Surely this pond cannot provide a deep body of water to fall into. Deserts don't have ponds or waterfalls, she said to herself as she looked to her side and saw a beautiful waterfall. She was not wholly surprised to find, though, that the fall was not too bad, and the pond was quite deep. As she prepared for another drop, she was comforted to find that this was her final stop. As she acclimated to being on land again, she wondered, how long have I been falling? It was winter. She saw the white rabbit run by. He said, "Oh, my ears and whiskers, how late it's getting." Afraid, she gave the rabbit some distance, until she saw it disappear into a beautiful garden. She ran at the garden, excited, only to find that she could not get in. Sad, she hung her head. When she looked up, she was staring back at the desert. Alice sighed. Then she noticed that the grass was green again, and she knew the time was quite different here. No wonder that silly rabbit's always late, she said to herself. I need to get into that garden. Unexpectedly, she noticed a little door, and she was able to look through, and so she did. "There's the garden!" she exclaimed. "It's been right here the whole time." But the door was locked, and she was far too tall to get through the door. I could probably get my head in, she thought. But what good would my head be without my shoulders? Alice looked up and saw a bridge. I wonder where this bridge would take me. I've seen a lot of bridges in my day, and they have all taken me somewhere. She looked around and found that she was far too small to climb up to the bridge, and she definitely couldn't see on it. She said. There must be a way to get up there. If only I could stretch out like a telescope. Just then, a piece of meat appeared before her. On it, there was a tag that said only 2 words, "Eat me." This seemed like a very bad moment to ignore her mother's words about taking food from strangers, but it also felt like a bad time to ignore her curiosity. Anyways, where else was she to go? Certainly not into the desert. So she took a bite of the meat. My, what a curious feeling! I must be stretching like a telescope. And so it was. She was now over 10 feet tall. Now she was able to see onto the bridge, where she found there was not much excitement to be found. She thought. Well, this isn't any more fun than a book without pictures. Suddenly, she noticed a key. This must be the key to the door. But now she was far too large to even see the door. Well, if a telescope can extend, it can definitely shut in. All I have to do is shut in. Grunting, she tried her hardest to fold in. It did not work. She began to cry. Come, there's no use in crying like that, said Alice to herself sternly. I advise you to leave off this minute. She always gave herself such great advice, even if she rarely took it. Just then, another piece of meat appeared. It also said, "Eat me." Well, I might as well try it, she thought. What else am I to do? So she took a bite. I'll never get used to this feeling. Which way, she asked, while holding her hand on her head to try to determine if she was getting smaller or larger. But nothing happened, so she continued to eat until she finished it all.